Welcome to Life After Divorce. I'm your host, Mary Beth Ramsey, and I've brought together over 20 healers, experts, and coaches to help you get over the past, reclaim your confidence, and be a happy, successful woman who shines. And today we have with us Riana Milne, and she is a certified global life, dating, and relationship coach and licensed mental health counselor for over 18 years. She's a #1 best-selling author, coach for the docuseries Radical Dating, Finding Lasting Love Over 40, host of her podcast, Lessons in Life and Love, and a certified clinical trauma and addictions professional. Riana offers VIP one-on-one and group coaching for singles and couples through her lifeandlovetrainingacademy.com. She has an app called My Relationship Coach, and she has 2 books, Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams, which address life transitions, personal transformations, and relationships with yourself and others. Riana's Facebook fan page is Coach Riana Milne, and her website is rianamilne.com. Thank you for being here.
How are you, everyone? Hi, Mary Beth. Thank you so much for asking me to be a part of it. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's so good to have you here. I know you have a lot of information to let everyone know about today.
Tons.
Yeah. Let's start out with talking about how, a little bit about your business and how you got started.
Sure. I've wanted to be a psychotherapist since I was young, as well as having books in Barnes & Noble stores. I was always one to believe in my dreams early on. But I actually started out in the first 10 years of my life in my 20s as a model and talent agent. And I was actually teaching, and I had my own school, and I was teaching my talents the mindset for success. And I had talent from ages 5 to 85. So, and even all my seniors worked. So I was doing mindset work back then. I was also definitely into faith-based concepts and spirituality for healing and difficult transitions. And let's face it, when you're in the talent industry, there's a lot of rejection. And, I just taught the talent the mindset for success, and they excel and reach their dreams. It was wonderful. And then I went back in my later years for my master's. So I have a triple master's in applied clinical and counseling psychology, and opened up my own center and was doing that for 18 years. But the coaching model I absolutely love, because for my VIP clients, they're able to text me, they can email me. So they have support with me 6 days a week. And when something happens that is traumatic or transitional and they need me, I'm there right away. So that's something the psychotherapy model cannot offer. So I don't even do that anymore. I do total coaching globally, and I absolutely love it.
Oh, that's amazing. I like that instant help, right? With the texting.
Yes.
And you specialize in childhood traumas.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that occurred after I was coming out of a difficult relationship. I married someone who seemed like the ideal partner for me. This is before I did all my research for my coaching. He was a school principal of a middle school, very handsome, very charming. We had a crazy love. We danced beautifully together. Everyone said, I want to be like you two. And it was really quite a great relationship. And our 4 sets of kids, our kids loved each other. And unfortunately, had a secret life that nobody knew about until it exploded when he got caught with porn on his computer. And as a middle school principal, that just does not work, okay? So it was a huge community scandal. At that time, I'm a marriage and family therapist. Everyone thought our marriage was amazing. And I'm like, why would he risk everything? When we had such a happy life. We traveled the world together, and I'm like, why would he risk everything? What is this? And I knew it was more than anything I ever learned. And I graduated summa cum laude. I mean, I was a 4.0 graduate, and I had never seen this kind of personality type. So that's when I went on a mad mission to figure out what does he have and why. So it all stemmed back to his childhood trauma. And when I got really deep in the research, I realized most of my clients had it too. Now, there's been recent research done on a large scale from Kaiser Permanente group out of San Diego that discovered 9 out of 10 people actually suffer in life and love due to childhood trauma. So today I'm going to share with your listeners the top 10 traumas, there's actually 18 defined, that could be wreaking havoc in their life and in mate selection. Because the #1 thing, Mary Beth, where most people get into trouble is they fall in love due to chemistry. And this is how we were taught, especially in America through our romance novels, our movies, and our fairy tales. Sleeping Beauty was kissed by the handsome prince. They go off with that life happily ever after. So we are attracted to what our psyche know is normal. So this is why, like the girl that grew up with an alcoholic father would never consciously marry someone like that, but then she's attracted to that type of person with that type of personality because it's her normal. It's what she knows. So this is why so many relationships get into trouble, and it is often found in research too. People of trauma attract people of trauma. And initially, these are great, romantic, whirlwind, passionate relationships. And then 4 to 9 months in, studies show this is where things start changing up. And it's usually after a commitment. So an engagement, living together, a marriage, where the dynamic really starts turning toxic.
Interesting. Why does it change after the commitment happens?
The fear set in. Most people can be on their best behavior like 90 days, and this is where the 90-day rule came in, to try not to be intimate or too overly involved with someone for about 90 days so you really get to know them, until they go through a crisis where you get to see how do they handle it with their mood management. If you both are getting busy after the romantic stage, if your guy's prone to be a cheater, he'll go out and seek attention from other women. That dynamic comes from childhood trauma. I work with a lot of people successful in business but struggle in love. That is my clients. And they can't understand, boy, I really nailed the success in business. Why can't I find a great, emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious partner? And that's exactly what I teach them to do.
Great. Wow. So let's go through those 10 traumas.
Okay. I suggest for your listeners now to get a pen and a paper and write these down, because at the end I do offer that you can meet with me for up to an hour, and I would love to know what came up for you on this list, because that will help you in your session with me the best. So write 3 columns, long columns. The first column you put me, then you put a partner, and it would be your last partner. I know you came from divorce, so maybe you want to put the ex, Yeah. And the third one would be parents.
Okay.
And you might have 1 or 2 parents in mind. So as I go through this list, just make a check mark if it applies across any of those columns. So the first one, and again, remember when I'm talking about this, it's really important that you realize childhood trauma was done to you. It's nothing to feel shame about or guilty about, because trauma happens to you. And the problem is trauma stays stored in the brain and the body over many, many years until we do the mindset work to correct it and make you consciously aware that the unconscious is no longer driving your choices. I know it sounds very wooey, but with my, clinical trauma training, I know how to work with you around this mindset and making the unconscious consciously aware and calming the trauma response, which we call emotional triggers. So here we go. Again, when you were a young, innocent little person, did any of this happen to you? 1, there was an addiction in your parents. So most of us know about drugs and alcohol. So let's go deeper. There's addictions to sex, like my partner had, porn, eating, hoarding, spending, gambling, gaming, TV watching. Now there's just 10 right off the bat. There are other addictions, but they're some of the most common.
Okay. Can I stop you one real quick? Now, if you have more than one addiction, does that count for more than one mark?
Oh, that means we've really got to talk.
Okay.
Yes, because the addiction will always come first. Okay. And that tends to lend with a narcissistic personality as well. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of personality stuff, and there's always co-personalities. It's never just drinking. There could be drinking and drugging, drinking and cheating, drinking and gambling. It's always usually 2 of the dynamics are happening in addiction. Okay, so I'll be glad to go deeper with you in that as well. So the second one is if you were exposed to verbal abuse. Now that's either watching your parents fighting or being the recipient of verbal abuse. Now we all know shouting, but it also means verbal put downs. Stonewalling, meaning they won't talk to you for hours or days at a time. Never hearing the words "I love you" or giving verbal accolades or compliments, like you've done a good job, hun. Not, if you don't hear those are forms of verbal abuse. So it goes deeper than what we normally think of it. Emotional abuse or neglect. We all know what that is too. Now we know the severe, but in their studies, they even equate it to like the mom, and I was a single mom for many years, who has to go off to work 9 to 5, and her child comes in at 3 o'clock from school and has to do their homework and get their snack when they're alone. Well, that lends to anxiety in the little person. We don't mean to emotionally neglect our children. We're working to support our families, but that is a form that a child could store within their body. Okay. Next one is sexual abuse, rape, or molestation. And that could have occurred whether in the home or outside of the home. That is always a level 10 trauma. And when I talk to you, I'm kind of grading 1 to 10 how deep those traumas are, but that's always level 10. And especially with a man that you knew or were supposed to trust. Father, grandfather, uncle, cousin, neighbor, that's even harder because of the trust factor around men you know. The next one is abandonment. And there's 2 types, fault and no fault abandonment. So a no fault abandonment is if a parent should die early, if a parent has to go off to war, or if a parent travels a lot to support the family. And that was one of my cases. My dad was like James Bond. He was FBI, CIA, and we didn't even know that until we got letters from Ronald Reagan and William Casey when he was dying of cancer, thanking him for the many years of service he did undercover. And I'm like, well, that's where Dad was, because I remember asking as a little person, when's Daddy coming home? And my mom said, well, I don't know. And she'd be all pissed off because she was raising the 5 kids and Dad wasn't there much. When he was wonderful, but that's a no fault abandonment within me. And then there's fault abandonment. So after a divorce, if the parents are separated and Dad promises to come visit the child and then blows off that appointment or is chronically late or gives more time and attention to the girlfriend when the child's at the house, these are forms of abandonment too. Okay, the next one. If you were part of foster care, if you were adopted, or you had to go live with other relatives or family friends. This is because mom or dad couldn't take care of you, or like one of my recent clients, she goes, I chose to live at another family's house. As soon as I got home from school, I went to her house, ate dinner with her family, came home when it was late at night, went to bed, repeat. She goes, I did not want to be home. So that would fall under that category too. The next one is very common. Number 7 is personal trauma or bullying. So personal trauma has other things. Bullying is the most common, but if you grew up with any medical illness, if you felt different, let's say you were a heavy, overweight child, or like me, I was very skinny and gawky as a child, so you might have been teased around that. Just anything that didn't make you feel good enough. For example, I had a beautiful African-American girl in my office, and all the way up to that, she goes, no, Riana, my family was great. Then I hit this one, she goes, oh, that's it. That's my trauma, she goes, because I was the only Black girl in an all-white school. And I never felt good enough. I was constantly teased and bullied. I didn't fit in. And she had the problems in her adult life, because this is how it affects you later in life, of being very jealous that her boyfriend always wanted somebody else. And she was gorgeous. But her psychology, her psyche, her unconscious still felt not good enough. So when she coached with me, we got her beyond that and brought her into her personal power and self-love so that she could be a great, equal partner and feel amazing about herself and her life. That's just an example of that. The next one is sibling trauma. And this is when the sibling has some kind of trauma, a medical issue, or they develop an addiction later in life, or the most common one, they were perceived as the golden child, which means in your mind, they were more beautiful, intelligent, accomplished, athletic. They got mom's and dad's attention and they kind of gushed over them for some reason more than you. That would lead to you not feeling good enough that you can't measure up to your sibling. The next one is very common. This is family trauma. And from the later traumas, I brought in also community trauma, because family and community trauma go hand in hand, especially today. Look at what's going on. We have a school shooting, once a month, twice a month. It's horrible for the people, not only the victims and their families, but everybody in that school is affected by trauma now. They all have childhood trauma. Look at the floods, Puerto Rico, completely wiped out. The hurricanes, the mudslides, the volcanoes. I mean, it's constant. Mother Nature trauma is known as community trauma. This also means if you grew up with lack, single family homes. There was never enough money. You were always worried about your security. If a parent was incarcerated, if you moved every 4 years because you were part of a military family, that's very traumatic because you always are getting used to a new school and new friends.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot under family trauma. That's just a few examples. There's just so much I can share with you, but we have limited time. And then the last one is really important too. And that is if your parents had any mental health issue. Now, the two most traumatic to grow up under is borderline personality, and it's best described as fast trigger anger. Like they love you, they hate you. You never know what mood they're going to be in when you walk in the door. They get mad over silly things, and they hold their temper for a long time. That's borderline. Bipolar is manic depressive. Manic is high ups and upswings, which could be spending addiction. And when they're in the manic, they could be really fun. And then depression is withdrawal, anger, exhaustion. So growing up under that kind of mom. Or if they had high anxiety. Again, research shows people with childhood trauma, your parents had it. It goes through the generations until you stop the pattern with your own children by learning this kind of dynamic. Even if you come from a divorced home, you can raise very successful children. So, and only one parent raised very successful children. I have 2 daughters who are extremely successful and quite amazing, and their dad was very difficult. So, and I left their father, I divorced their father when they were 4 and 5. Mm-hmm. So, you can be mother, father to your kids and still make sure they're amazing, but you've got to stop this pattern if it's in your lineage. Again, it's all unconscious. You don't know what you don't know. I say you can't change what you don't understand. So once you understand what's going on and you can see it in your children too, you're going to know how to help them. And I worked in schools at every grade level from kindergarten all the way through college. And I was the trauma counselor. We're called a SAC, S-A-C, Student Assistance Counselor. So, with my psychotherapy background and then working with the kids from traumatic homes, these were the kids often misdiagnosed as ADHD, oppositional defiant. But they'd come home into school not sleeping, maybe not having any food, hearing mom and dad fight. And I'd have kindergartners say mom was in the bed with another man. Kindergarten kids telling me so they can't think about anything else except am I going to go home and my parents will be there, or my mom will be there. Mm-hmm. So it's the diagnoses are often wrong due to childhood trauma.
Wow. And yeah, this is amazing, this list. It's like there's so many traumas that you don't think that are really traumatic.
Right.
You think it's your life. So it's very eye-opening. So when you have 2 different people who have traumas, 4 or 5 traumas in their life, and now they're together, what happens?
This is what we call toxic relationships.
Okay.
And my book, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve, is all about that. This is where, let me describe some of the outcomes when you have childhood trauma and what emerges, because that will answer this question. So let's say there's a guy you met who was very charming when you first met him, very attentive, lots of texts, phone calls. It was seemed like the perfect guy. Well, this is usually a guy that grew up in a home where he felt not good enough. He learned to charm his teacher at school, became the teacher's pet, found that with charm and humor, he could get the girl he wanted. This is how you fell in love with him. But deep down, his wounds are, I'm not good enough. That's what he was told from mom or dad. So that's the charmer manipulator that then once they're discovered, their weaknesses are discovered, they may move on to the next one. They normally are attracted to high power women, but men that have affairs usually go to someone socially defined as not as worthy. And I don't mean to judge anybody, but let's say we had a corporate attorney woman, he marries her, then he ends up flirting with a local diner waitress who is all googly eyed over him. Okay. So if there's an affair, it's usually with someone less successful. And this is where my successful women have trouble and come to me. So that's that charming guy. That's why I say, to my women, watch when you say, I want someone with a huge sense of humor. Or if you see someone define themselves as, I'm sarcastic. There's childhood wounds there. We don't want a sarcastic guy. because what you think is funny initially, now they're going to use sarcasm against you when they're comfortable with you, and it's very critical. You know, so you don't want someone that has to charm somebody with humor. Okay, so there's a lot of things. Women are looking for the wrong things, and then they end up with the wrong guy. One common for women is people pleasing. But that comes from having a very difficult mom. Let's say, for example, if she was alcoholic, in order to not be screamed at, if she woke up grumpy and hungover, you might do the dishes and get the siblings ready for school and make the lunches, and then you're going off to school all stressed out, you know, but school was where you found accolades. So this is why a lot of people are successful in business. They did well in school. That's where they found love and compliments and felt happy there. But then at home, this is where the love life gets screwed up because, you know, the parents, how they loved you emotionally was inadequate. Right? So this is where we have to teach you self-love and a new way of love. In a lot of ways, for my younger girls, like I'm a reparent as a mom, or as for my older ladies, I am like a sister, you know, teaching, you know, sisterly love, motherly love that they might not have gotten as a child. And I work with men and women, younger, older, straight, and LBGT clients. So the common denominator is those that have had childhood dating or relationship trauma. So the woman that had to people please the mom ends up people pleasing her family, the husband, and overdoes for the kids. And then later is stressed out, burned out, and said, nobody loves me like I do love them. Nobody does for me like I do for them. And they think it's terribly unfair, but their boundaries are way stretched out because that's their normal. That's what they did to find and get love.
Right.
So if the man's there, yeah, great, cook my meals, go to work, bring in the money, do this, do that, do everything. And, you know, and then you're supposed to be happy. And then you end up saying, I'm not happy, I resent it all, you know?
Right. And then you try to fix it or bring it back, and then it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, I work with couples as well as singles. So when my couples have to learn about each other's childhood patterns and how to communicate through them. And my Penn State degree, my BA is in speech communications. So we talk about pitch, tone, volume, pace. There's a whole science behind communication rules in order to be heard with love and understanding. There's never a reason to raise your voice, not to your kids, not to your partner, ever. So when you learn this dynamic and you talk with each other through empathy, understanding each other's patterns, traumas, and what's normal, and we change that up, these couples soar. Like they become brand new people, number one, because I have to work with them one-on-one to change their own dynamic, and as a couple to change that third dynamic. So the couples are always a VIP client, meaning I have to work with them one-on-one. My singles are our groups and VIP because we can do the group dynamic with singles, but not the couples.
That sounds amazing. So what does a healthy relationship look like?
Yes, that's the emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious relationship. So I'll break that down. Emotionally healthy means we are done with all the childhood past traumas. We're dating and relationship traumas. People that come to me have very low trust in dating, so we get them beyond that. And we make them emotionally healthy first, because you have to be a successful single to attract an equally successful, emotionally healthy person. Okay, so that's the first rule. So we equally do life and then love coaching. And in the love coaching, they learn exactly what questions to ask to find out if that person in front of them is emotionally healthy or not. And they know, my clients know, yes or no on the first, second date max, yes or no, and why. You know, that's the most important thing. There's like 24 questions that you want to be asking to know if this is a healthy person. So evolved means being your highest and best self. It means living in integrity, doing the right things when nobody's looking, feeling really good about yourself, your choices, your decisions. And that's where the conscious part comes in. You are no longer flying by the unconscious. You're consciously aware of everything, what you say, what you do, how you act, and it becomes just part of your normal life. You know, you're always talking to yourself in your head. One of my questions I always tell my clients, is it for the good of all? Your choices, your actions, your decisions. So this is a consciously aware person. Only about 4 to 5% of people live consciously aware. So it's, not too many, but when you learn it, you'll never go back to the other. These skills you have for the rest of your life. So, and then when the couple starts becoming consciously aware, everything falls in line. So it really is beautiful. Some of the things, with the evolved relationship is balance, you, me, and us. I say like an equilateral triangle. So you have to have your own personal times and your own career or your own hobbies, and as does he. And then you definitely have to have a good time together. That's really important. We describe everybody's wants, requirements, needs, and desires, and make sure that those are being fulfilled. The emotional and functional needs, like what do you need to feel happy around the house and in your life? So if you're a neat freak or like the home picked up and your husband's a slob, that's going to grate on you constantly. Then when the husband wants to have sex later and you're too burnt out or too frustrated, he wants to know why. Well, these are all the stupid little things that we break down, but it's under functional needs. That woman's need is to have a home. If she's a homemaker, to see her home neat, and she doesn't want to feel like the guy's maid or his mom. Once she steps into mom, she's then not a partner, right? He's a child. She's no longer attracted to him. So once the guy gets that, then he steps up and becomes more of a man and an equal partner. So there's all these dynamics. There's just one dynamic, but there's so many that I analyze. And, I kind of wear three hats: the psychotherapist, the clinical trauma professional, and then the coach to move you forward into the area that you want to be in.
Right. And it seems to work so nicely together.
Yes.
All the things that you're doing.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
There's so much to talk about.
I know. You have so much information.
Let me see if there's something else. Jealousy is an important one to know about. Jealousy comes from not feeling good enough. That usually comes from trauma number 7. Like my example that I used. Impulsivity, that's one of the most traumatic pieces in someone's relationship, because that's when someone will just do what they want because deep down they say, well, I deserve this. Or I don't care. They don't even think if they're hurting the other person, and that's the chronic cheater, right? And that could then, people with too many of these traumas could be sociopathic, meaning then there's a long list of what defines sociopathy as well. And we look at that if you might have had a sociopathic partner. But that means emotionally they just do for themselves, which also tends to narcissism, do for themselves without thinking about the other. So, and that comes from, wanting so much as a kid, not getting it, and then as adults say, well, I deserve this, and I'm just going to do what I want without worrying about anyone else. So that's something we have to watch out for. A lot of people with trauma where they don't feel good enough grow up to want to do hero jobs. Police officers, firefighters, EMTs, judges. Why? Attorneys, because they want the accolades of feeling good enough. So they are drawn to the type of hero roles. Our soldiers, most of them came from childhood trauma. So it's a really fascinating study, and that's why I did it over 2.5 years. And it's really quite easy now for me to, work with someone despite what their trauma was and help them totally transform their lives in both life, all their love. We do a lot of career work as well, and love. So whether they're looking for that partner or they're with one and they want the relationship to work better, that's what I do.
Wow. It's amazing because now this is so eye-opening, and then the empathy and compassion can come in, right? When you understand, sure. And then it kind of opens you up to a better relationship or a better partner.
Yes, my couples transform. It's a full transformation of what they were individually, one-on-one, individually, and then together as a couple. Because there's still chemistry there. But unfortunately, their emotional triggers from the past get in the way, and this is a cycle. Right. Sometimes it's called the domestic cycle of violence. And, it's that walking on eggshells feeling, and eventually over time, you just can't stand it anymore. And that's what leads to a divorce. You try, but the problem is people who keep trying and trying, they don't have the new skills that they really need to switch themselves up individually, and then their communication dynamic as a couple. And whenever a couple walks into my office, I'm there, what are you hoping to achieve? Oh, we want better communication skills. Because unfortunately, these skills that I teach, we weren't taught these, not from our parents, not in our schools, and not even in my master's program in psychology. So, no, I went out to find them. I put them together in my programs, which are my 2 books and my 200-page workbook, which my clients call the gold. And they keep going back to the instructions in the workbook, So it's a very educational model and very transformative.
Great, great. And you have some free gifts, right?
Yes, definitely. So if this list resonated with you, or you want to know more about childhood partner, let's say you think, I don't have it, but the guy I'm dating, I think he has that. This is what you do. Just go to the URL, www.havetheloveyoudeserve.com. And there's a free ebook there. Just sign up for that. It's about 12 pages, so it goes much deeper into this subject. And then also, if you want to speak with me, I offer up to 1 hour of time. Just apply for a free life and love transformation discovery session on my website, which is rianamilne.com, my name. There'll be a pop-up form after about 30 seconds. Just fill that out. That will lead you to my calendar to make an appointment. We will meet by Skype if you're an individual and by Zoom if you're a couple. So I look forward to meeting you. Please take advantage of that. It's a $500 offer. And once this airs, I will offer that out to 8 people. The first come, first serve. I have 8 openings for the week after I air. So.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so generous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank everyone for showing up today, and make sure you click on her website to get her free offers. They're amazing. And thanks for showing up and being present in your life so that you can be a happy, successful woman who shines.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless. And it's time to have the life you desire and the love you deserve.